Let me also bring on board Raamdeo Agrawal, represents Motilal Oswal Financial Services. Raamdeo, the budget is good, solid, growth-oriented, numbers are looking strong. If that is the case, how come markets are not rewarding this budget? Markets are flat, Nifty has cracked from the day's high.
Yes, see, I think the budget is as everybody is putting it, it's a responsible budget. So there is nothing right now for the next 1 hour or something to be done. I mean, there is no big bang like which is required to immediately react in the market. I mean, which changes the opinion per se at this juncture, because the markets move up or down because of the change in the opinion, and I don't think there is anything in here which dramatically changes the opinion about the outlook immediately. I think outside the budget, the action is going to be more in next 12 months than the budget itself.
The action is going to be outside the budget over the next 12 months. We also have elections in the next 12 months, so it's going to be a tricky one, isn't it? Punita has got another question for Dr. Rajan. Punita?
Raghu, I looked at the divestment targets that you all have put out, and divestment targets are obviously a necessary way to garner revenues, but it's not a secular, sustainable way to continuously keep getting revenues year after year. And you know, after a point, you won't really have that source of revenue. So I noticed that the surcharge you put on the ultra rich is only for a year. Can you explain why it's only been put for a year and it's not something that might sustain?
Well, the idea was that we have a tax regime which has stood the test of time for governments and for finance ministers, I think is what the FM said in his speech. And the idea is that, you know, part of what we want to do is continue the stability of the tax regime so that people understand what to expect going forward. And so the three slabs, the 10, 20, 30 is something we want to stay with, which is why the surcharge is a one-time surcharge. We don't want to, I mean, we do believe that broadening the base is the primary way you get more taxes. But in a time of difficulty, perhaps it's not you know, it's a reasonable thing to ask those who are very rich to pay a little more, but we don't want to target them in some sense we don't want to soak the rich policy, if you will. The idea is a temporary tax and then go back to the structure that has stood the test of time, rather than implement yet another slab for the super rich. So that's really the intent, to suggest that there is stability in the tax structure. We don't want to move away from the existing tax structure, and we plan to return to it so that investors and as well as citizens have confidence in the overall tax regime.
Dr. Rajan, you've got good company joining you as well. A good friend of yours, Dr. Montek Singh Ahluwalia, Deputy Chairman of the Planning Commission, also joins in live and exclusive right here on ET Now. Montek, thank you so much for joining us on ET Now. What's your sense? Do you think the budget has enough in it to put the growth story back on track? Are we on track to a 6.5% growth in FY14 because the macro headwinds are still very much there?
Well, I think the finance minister has clearly zeroed in on the key issues. There is macroeconomic stress, everybody's been talking about it, and I think he's managed to, first of all, do better than people thought in the current year, because instead of a fiscal deficit of 5.3%, we're ending the current year at 5.2, which is clearly good, and he's held to the promise of 4.8. He's done that by, I think, a fairly responsible approach to expenditure. There's a lot of stability on taxation, which is very, very important. Some additional measures which I think are quite reasonable. And the central message that the budget speech gave is that we must now gear up to get the growth rate back. Those are not things that are the result of specific tax measures. It's more like a statement of policy that he's really committing the government to doing everything necessary to get the growth rate back up.